Help, guys. I'm trapped in an icy limbo. I don't know how to get out, or even if everything is real. Hey, Reddit. I've got a story that still sends shivers down my spine every time I think about it. It's something I experienced, and sometimes I wonder if it was all real or just a twisted dream. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this because it's been haunting me. Do you think we're dead? Eleanor asked me once, her voice trembling in the cold wind. We were perched high on what seemed like the edge of the world, staring into a dark, endless sea. It was a bizarre question, right? I mean, we were talking, breathing, seeing each other's breath in the icy air. But there, in that desolate place, it felt eerily appropriate. Let me backtrack a bit. I'm what you'd call an extremophile, always chasing the next adrenaline high. This led me to a mountaineering adventure on Monty Rose's Dufferspitz with my friend Rob. He was more experienced, and I was more or less following his lead. The climb was supposed to be straightforward. That was until a snowstorm hit us out of nowhere, and in the whiteout, I lost sight of Rob. Panic set in, and I turned back, hoping to find safety. But things got weirder. The compass went haywire, the cold became unbearable, and I found myself stumbling upon an abandoned tent in the middle of nowhere. Seeking shelter, there seemed like the only option. I woke up to a world that wasn't the one I remembered falling asleep in. Reddit, have any of you ever experienced something like this? Waking up somewhere completely different from where you slept? The landscape was alien. An endless expanse of dark water bordered by a jagged ice cliff. It was here that I met Eleanor and others, survivors like me, trapped in this inexplicable place. We were on a cliffside structure, a shantytown of sorts, clinging to the icy walls. The rules of this world were cruel. You couldn't die, but you could suffer endlessly. We had to scavenge for supplies in a snowfield filled with unseen, monstrous creatures and rebuild our shelter constantly as the iceberg we were on sank slowly into the ocean. There was an ever-present threat of bizarre and terrifying creatures, like giant infant-like beings and invisible serpentine monsters. As I adapted to this nightmarish reality, I learned about the storm, a deadly phenomenon that brought scalding rain and torrents of meltwater. It took away some of our group, only for them to return later, reborn from the ice in a process that was as horrifying as it was miraculous. But the most unsettling part, when Yago, one of us, vanished during a storm, never to return. He burst into flames, a spectacle of red and heat, and disappeared. Since then, there's been no sign of him. It leaves me with a haunting question. Did he escape, or did he find a fate worse than what we already faced? Now, I'm left wondering if the next storm might be my chance to break free from this eternal prison. It's a terrifying thought, but what would you do, Reddit? Would you take the risk if it meant possibly escaping, or is the unknown too frightening? After Yago's disappearance, the atmosphere among us survivors changed. Desperation was replaced by a haunting resignation. We knew the dangers of our icy prison, but Yago's vanishing act introduced a new, unsettling uncertainty. Our routine of scavenging and rebuilding continued, but now with an undercurrent of anxious anticipation for the next storm. Each of us, in our own way, wondered if it could be our ticket out, our chance to pull a Yago. But fear and doubt lingered. What if we ended up somewhere worse? Or what if it was the end, period? One day, while out in the snowfield, I had a close encounter that still chills me to the bone. Kurt and I were out scavenging when he suddenly grabbed me and whispered urgently, "Get down." Now, trusting his instincts, I followed suit. He had seen something in the periphery, a dark, ominous shape he called the uncoupled. According to him, it was best not to look directly at it. A fellow survivor had once done so and was drawn to it, never to be seen again. Kurt's warning was clear. If you see something dark and unsettling out of the corner of your eye, ignore it. Easier said than done, right? Have any of you read it? Ever felt that primal fear? The urge to look at something you know you shouldn't? As we huddled there, hidden from whatever Kurt had seen, a strange and terrifying realization hit me. I could hear distant screams carried by the wind, and in those screams, I recognized a voice, Rob's voice. It was a moment of profound horror and sadness. He was out there, somewhere, suffering. The days blurred into weeks, and the weeks into an indeterminate stretch of time. We endured another storm, this one as brutal as the last. This time, we were better prepared, or so we thought. We tied ourselves down, but the ferocity of the storm was overwhelming. The melting ice, the torrential waters, the scalding rain, it was a maelstrom of nature's fury. In the chaos, we lost Eleanor. One moment she was there, gripping my hand, and the next, she was swept away by the raging waters. The helplessness of that moment haunts me. After the storm, we waited for her to re-emerge from the ice, a cycle we'd become grimly familiar with. Sure enough, she did, but like those before her, she came back. Different. More distant, more detached. This cycle of loss and return, of endless suffering and fleeting hope, it takes a toll on you. Reddit, how would you cope in such a situation? Would you hold on to hope or let the despair take over? Now we're waiting for the next storm, each of us wrestling with our own demons and decisions. Do we take the chance, follow Iago's lead, and hope for a release from this icy hell? Or do we endure, clinging to the slim hope of finding another way out? I'll stop here for now. I'm still processing everything, still trying to make sense of this relentless nightmare. Your thoughts and advice mean a lot to me. I'll update you when I can, or if I make a decision about facing the next storm. Also, if you enjoy more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and like. It helps the channel out and is very appreciated.